Right, so a lot of you have questions on how to comp a condo. I know we've gone over that a couple times, so we're just going to kind of quickly touch base on that, and then we're going to jump on the MLS and see how you find that when you go and you search in the condo section, how much the monthly fee is or what the management fee is, right? So everyone understands what HOA is. It's the homeowners association. So every month on a condo, you're going to be contributing for the homeowners association. So what does that cover? Covers your
groundkeeping.
Yeah, so groundkeeping, roof.
Sometimes foundation.
Yeah, sometimes on exterior you'll have some foundation. You'll have some of the gating or the fencing outside. You know, it kind of comes disrepair. They'll repaint that. So maybe fencing. So what are you seeing a trend of what they cover?
Everything that's not inside.
Yep. So they're covering stuff that's on the exterior. Okay. What does a lot of other condos have?
Common areas.
Pools.
Yeah, pools. That's a big one. Common areas.
Gyms and stuff.
Yeah. So you're paying this every single month to a company who runs the HOA. Okay. And depending on where you are, Houston, in our condos, we actually have very expensive HOA fees, right? So I have a few condos. I think the most expensive one I pay is about $400 a month, right? So you got to factor this in when you're evaluating whether it's a deal. So we're just kind of covering how do you evaluate a good investment if it has an HOA or a condo fee on there, right? So when you're comping a condo, what are you looking for? Like, what do you have to look for?
Similar rents.
Similar rents, but are you going to be able to go into a condo, let's say Cambridge Court condos, right? They have 200 units. And then you're looking for your comps. Can you go to every single condo block around there and use that as a comp? No. Why is that?
You want to be in the same condo.
Yeah, you want to be in the same condo block because maybe they have more amenities, maybe they have more pools, maybe they're a little bit of a newer build. You know, maybe they're a different school zone, maybe they're a different layout. There's so many different factors involved that you can't use your condo to the one that's across the street that has a different management company, different HOA, different build. So when you comp, you have to use within your condo block, so to speak, right? So when you do that, on a lot of occasions, you're not going to be able to find ones that have sold what you're looking for, right? So you're looking at on a cash flowing investment. So what's the most important thing
Rents.
on a cash flow investment is your rent, right? So if we have our condo and we have, say, 700 square feet, and we're seeing a whole bunch of rents for, let's say, $1,100 a month. Right? How are we going to evaluate what our ARV is? Because we're using more of a 1% rule, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So to figure out if it's going to be cash flowing. But what's the problem with this $1,100 fee on an HOA or on a condo?
You're paying HOA.
You're paying the HOA, right? So what does that do? It just wipes off your bottom line, so to speak. So on this one, let's assume that the HOA is $280 every single month. Right, so now we have to deduct this $280 from that $1,100. So what is that? $1,100 minus $280.
$920.
$920?
$820.
$820? Okay. So now this is our monthly income from this HOA, because who's going to be paying the HOA fee every month?
Landlord.
The landlord, right? You're not going to rent your property for $1,100 to your tenant, and then after they move in, tell them, hey, now you have an extra $280 to pay on top of that, right? It's a pretty expensive place. So you have to factor this into all your costs. So one way to easily do it is just deduct your HOA from your rental comps to kind of give you an idea of where it's gonna sit. Now what can we do? Now we can use our 1% written rule on the remaining balance of that. So if our net rent here was 820, what are we going to calculate with our ARV?
82,000.
82,000. Now let's say I did a rent rehab on a condo yesterday, right? And it was about 20,000. Although it was very small, it still needed a new HVAC, right? New condenser, needed new flooring, needed new paint, new kitchen, new bathroom. So the repair was about 20,000.
Whole building?
This is for the one condo, the 20,000, right? So I'm trying to evaluate what I want to pay for it. So I got 82,000. Now what am I timesing that by?
78%.
78%, right? So this is kind of roughly what an investor would pay. So what's 80,000 times 0.78 minus 20,000?
43,960.
43,960.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, if I'm wholesaling this property and I want to make a fee out of it, right? And we're going to start with a $12,000 fee.
Yeah.
What's my offer?
31,960.
31,960. Right. So you can kind of see how that HOA really decimates your offer on a condo. So when someone brings you a condo, they're gonna be like, "Well, man, it rents great. It rents for $1,100 a month. It does rent for $1,100, but that's that's kind of an in the air number because I'm losing $300 of my rent straight away with the HOA fee, right?" So what's another issue you might have when you're trying to pitch, if you're wholesaling the condo? What's another issue you might have when you're trying to pitch it to an investor? Anyone know? What's another negative side? Not just the HOA, but what's another big cost you got to think of when you buy a property with an HOA? You might think that the HOA covers all of the exterior, but they do something.
Upgrade.
Well, they call it like an adjustment, right? So if something happens, let's say a tree falls down and breaks the whole fence line, or there's some kind of shifting during a hurricane here in Houston and it cracks all the plastering of the pool. They're not going to just cover that from your normal HOA fee. They're going to make all the owners in the association pay for that. So if it's a big cost, right, and they spread it out, you might get a bill without your say, without your vote, for $5,000 to fix it. And what's that going to do? It's going to take away all your profit from the last 3 years. And that happens. People think that the HOA covers everything always, but they can send a bill for basically the big stuff that they have to do outside of that HOA agreement. Right. And what's another issue with the HOA? They can raise the HOA. So the condo I have, the same one that we're putting under contract, I've seen the HOA go all the way up to $400 from about $160, $170. So it's another thing you got to think of. So if I'm an investor and I can go buy a house with a $100 HOA fee for a year at 78%, the cash flow is the same percentage as this condo, which is going to be a better investment for me. It's going to be the single family, right? Or a multifamily that doesn't have that same HOA fee requirement. It's going to be a better investment. So when you're looking at condos, keep these things in mind, right? That try to get it as deep as possible when you can. So another thing with this HOA is what we're trying to do is possibly Airbnb it, but HOAs in condos, they can be a lot stricter, so they can have a lot of say over what you do with that property. I had an investor some time ago bought a property for the purpose of Airbnb, and he fixed it, he furnished it, he did everything in line with Airbnb, and then he listed it on VRBO, Airbnb, all these short-term rentals, and he got contacted by the HOA, and they said, "Hey, in the deed restrictions it says you can't Airbnb here." So he couldn't use it for his purpose. So he had to rent it out, or he had to then sell it. But that can throw off your whole financial game plan when you're doing your calculations, you're planning on it being a short-term rental, right? Because he didn't check the deed restrictions on that HOA. So these are a lot of factors you want to consider, right? So how do you source how much it is? How do you find out how much the HOA fee is?
Look down on the tax.
You go down on the MLS listing all the way at the bottom.
Yep.
It's under management fees. I believe.
So we're gonna go through it and find it here for a second, and then we're gonna create a little video on our MLS, right? So this is on Matrix. Some other markets are gonna have different MLSs, but on Matrix, this is how we find our management fees. So anytime you have a condo being sent, ask the realtor or the homeowner, what do you pay monthly for your HR fee, and then double check. And if you're looking at comps that are a year ago or 2 years ago, or maybe even 6-7 months ago, what are you gonna do? You're gonna call that HOA company, right, the management company, and verify that's still $200 or $250, right? You don't want to bank on the fact that 3 years ago it was $120 and it's still going to be $120 when you buy it. Right, so this is our MLS, right? HAR, that's the Houston Association of Realtors. All over, there's multiple MLSs all over the state, all over the country. A lot of them do use this software, the back-end software, which is Matrix. So this is just kind of an example on ours, how we find it on Matrix. But if you're watching this video somewhere else, it might differ. So we're going to get into HAR. We're going to go into Matrix here. And then what we want to do, we are verifying the property, right? So we're looking at all the ins and outs on the tax roll, and from there we're going to be able to find out what condo it's in. So we're going to go to public records. Drop down, we're going to go to realist tax. And then we are going to look, so it's 8055 Cambridge Street, and then do 102. So this is the tax roll on this condo. One thing you might see is the lot size is going to be pretty huge. This is because it's part of the overall, the whole section of the condo, right? So we are looking at what ours has from there. So we have 776 square feet, MLS square feet, on this condo, and it's a 2-1, right? It was built in 1984, and this is the last time it was sold on the MLS. So this is the owner name. This tells you if it's owner occupied. If you want to go down. And this is the information that you're going to need to find out the HOA, right? So you are looking, when you're doing your comps, you're looking for anything in the Cambridge Court condo section. So what you want to do is just copy this Cambridge Court condo. I wouldn't even take the phase. I would just take the Cambridge Court condo, because the phase is going to be as they built it along. So one section is going to be phase 1, but it takes some time to build these. It's going to be phase 2, phase 3, but we can still comp everything within that Cambridge Court condo area. Okay, so copy that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to Matrix. We're going to search. We're going to do townhouse and condo. We're going to do quick townhouse and condo. And we're basically looking for anything which sold in a shorter time period, right? We don't want to be using comps that go back a year or 2 years ago to find the management fee. If we have to and we're looking at rents, we can possibly use those, but the management fee changes. So we want to find the most up-to-date as possible. So what we want to do is look at all of these: option pending, pending continue to show, pending, sold, withdrawn, expired, all within the last about 180 days to see what we can find. Now what we're going to do is we're going to copy our subdivision name in here to make sure we have the right ones, and there we see that we have 17 matches that we can use. So we're going to go to results. Actually, before we go to results, apologize. Go back. Let's look at the map. Oh, go back to option pending. Let's just verify on the map that we're within the same condo section. Right? So if we're zooming out, so we know we're pretty safe, right? You're sandwiched in between here, Cambridge Street, and this is probably Alameda. We're all within that same block. What sometimes you're going to find is if it has a pretty common name, that there's another condo block somewhere else, right? So you want to map them out and make sure you're using those. So now we can go to results. And we see that all of them are on here, right? So let's just click on one that's very similar. Here's an active one, right? So we know that's pretty modern. Let's click on the MLS number. And we're going to, look at all the description of the property, but we're looking for the management fee to locate what the HOA fee is. So we're going to scroll down, and under here, yep. So under interior, exterior, utilities and additional information, you're going to find out the fees that are associated in there, right? So here we go. Management company. If it doesn't have an HOA on your property, if you're doing this with single family, it's just going to say no. Okay? But this says yes, creative management. This does not give the, oh yes it does, under financial information. So maintenance fee, this is $335 a month. See that there. Okay? And it's good on this one, they actually listed the HOA company, creative management, and their number. Sometimes you'll see that they don't actually list the company on there. They just put the amount on there, or they'll put yes, it has an HOA. It's $250 a month. So let's go back to results. So how much that was? 335. So let's try to find one. If we go back to search. Let's do sold 500, or say 600, 600 plus. We want to find an old one. Right, take away active. It's actives now. So go to results. Now, let's find one, just click on one of these. Let's see if it lists the HOA fee. Yep. Oh, that's still $335. So what you're looking at here, that was 2017. What we're trying to find is the further that you go back, you're going to see that they've gone down some. All right. So it's just very important that you're finding ones that are the current fee, not older fees. So on this one, it's actually the same, but if you go back a few years, you're going to see that it might have been cheaper and it might have been a different management company. Hence why you can't use those to get your fee, right? You'll see that some of these cheap condos, it's kind of hard to find active comps. So if you're gonna use, that management fee, you better touch base with the current management company to find out if it's still 200, still 150. All right, I think that covers how you source your HOA fee and matrix. Cool. Do you have some questions, Neil?
Yeah, I got one.
Sure.
So on HOAs for the condos, you were saying that if it's too high of an HOA, it can kill our cash flow.
Yep.
So, would it work the same with certain single-family homes? Do single-family homes also have like an expensive HOA, or is it typically less than?
The condo is always going to have a more expensive HOA, right? It's just the way that it's structured. To be a lot of single families do have an HOA, but if you look at the fee, it's going to be $400, $600, $700 a year. You still got to take that into account when you're doing your single family HOA, right? But if you're paying $400 a year, it's a far cry from $335 a month, right? So definitely still look at the HOA on the single family, but for when you get a lead, which is a condo lead, automatically there's going to be a HOA. Does that answer?
Yes.
What else? HOA
I got a
questions?
question.
Sure.
Does that HOA does it cover the taxes and all that too?
Does not.
Does not? Oh, okay.
No.
Okay, I thought it did.
What taxes? Your property tax?
Property taxes.
No. You're on the hook for your own property tax.
Oh, okay.